Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdes, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdes.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdes, Valdes with an S, at Rich Valdes on all of the social media. Welcome to the Tuesday night edition of the program. We're live and national. Truly a blessing to be with you guys. Here's the phone number if you want to join me, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDES. And some big news coming out of New York City. America's Mayor Rudy Giuliani formally endorsing the preferred candidate of mine, Curtis Sliwa. And I get this is a significant thing. Why? Because Rudy Giuliani knows exactly how New York works. He knows what it's like to run 3 times and lose. 3 times, right? I always remind everybody of this. Why? Because people like to say, oh, for whatever reason, people are misunderstood or misinformed, and they think that Curtis Sliwa has run multiple times for office. But the reality is he ran once in 2021 against Eric Adams. He had a primary in 2021 and ran against 4 or 5 other people, and he beat those people. He won the primary, and he became the nominee, losing to Eric Adams. So now he's running again, and I would say he's done well. They said, you need to drop out. You need to drop out. Guess who ends up dropping out? That's right, elite Eric Adams. He's a fake, he's a phony, and a fraud, and now he's out of the race. Now you've got the son of Mario Cuomo, former governor, Andrew Cuomo. Now, what's interesting about this one, again, Andrew Cuomo is literally the reason that you have so much crime in New York right now. Well, how do you say that, Rich? How do you figure? Real simple. He allied himself with the most radical elements of the left to sign into law a no-cash bail reform law in 2020. It was 2019, but it went into effect in 2020. And guess what? It's been downhill ever since. There's only one signature on that bill, Andrew Cuomo. Andrew Cuomo went on to run, and he left in disgrace. They said that he was sexually harassing state troopers and people in his office, deputy chief of staff, this, that, and the other. Instead of fighting the allegations and going to court and clearing his name, he decided to quit his job as governor, appointing the lieutenant governor. Now, this is the second lieutenant governor, at least as far as I can remember, because the first one also had to resign in disgrace. Nice guy, by the way, Brian Benjamin. Met him years ago. But, again, had a scandal, had to leave. So, that's Andrew Cuomo. Now, Andrew Cuomo decides after a few years have gone by and after his reckless, I'm going to say deadly decision to put COVID-infected individuals in the same place as our most vulnerable and valuable, I would say, senior citizens, nursing homes. He signed an executive order mandating that hospitals transport people that didn't fit into nursing homes. Guess what happened there? About 15,000 deaths. When people from the nursing home community were sounding the alarm, writing op-eds in the Wall Street Journal, getting on radio programs. One called The Mark Levin Show, right? Dr. Elaine Healy. She ran a place that was ground zero, Westchester, New York, right when COVID started spreading. I don't know if you remember. It was Westchester, New York, and it was Portland, Oregon, where this thing started to smolder before it hit the rest of the country. And guess what? Elaine Healy called and said, hey, can I get on with Mark Levin because this, that, and the other's happening? I said, hang on. I told the great one, listen. This woman is a doctor, a medical doctor. She is a nursing home administrator, and she's talking about this reckless plan that Andrew Cuomo has. We did some on-the-fly research. We saw that it was a real thing about to take effect the very next day. And the great one went on the air and sounded the alarm because of her heroism, her patriotism. It wasn't enough. It didn't stop. It didn't get reversed. It went on, and 15,000 old people died as a result of Andrew Cuomo. And now he wants to be the mayor of New York City. And somehow people in New York City must have hit their head as they were getting robbed on the subway, because now they're thinking, oh, but he's the only chance to keep us from a communist. So hold on a second. Keep us from a communist. Did anybody see how Andrew Cuomo behaved during the COVID lockdowns? I remember that clear as day. I was 17 floors above Madison Square Garden and WABC radio at the time. And every day I would watch those press conferences, and Andrew Cuomo would get on there every single day, and tell people. I called it the Andy Cuomo podcast because he talked about everything except hope. He talked about everything except COVID. He would just talk about how great he was doing and how everything he was doing and how he was working with the White House because he was, on behalf of New Yorkers, and nothing was getting done. The place was in total lockdown. Anyway, all that being said, fast forward. Now he decides to throw his hat in the ring for New York City mayor. So in June, him and Eric Adams and Assemblyman Mamdani, they all run against each other to see who is going to be the top Democrat that gets to run against the top Republican. Well, lo and behold, he loses there too. He gets trounced, beaten badly by Mamdani. 13-point loss for Cuomo. Adams, even worse. And Mamdani comes out as the Democrat nominee for mayor. He's the official standard bearer of the Democrats. So Cuomo's already lost, but he says, nope, I'm not going to lose gracefully. Nope, I'm going to run as an independent. Problem is, his independent line is so far off the map, I doubt anybody's going to see it when they go in there to vote. So you really have a race here that's going to be between Curtis Sliwa and Mamdani. And I just want to emphasize, Mamdani has, I think, $3.8 million. Curtis Sliwa has $3.4 million. Does that sound like a neck-and-neck race? Just about. Just about. Mamdani is a trust fund baby born in Uganda. Mr. Cuomo is the son of former Governor Cuomo, political royalty in New York. Talk about a deep state. That's the definition of it. This guy's never had a job outside of government. And then you have a guy who literally used to take the subway to go to work in McDonald's and saw so much crime in the neighborhood in McDonald's when he worked as the night manager that he started a safety patrol group back in 1977. That's Curtis Sliwa. And he's been out there. They've called him a vigilante. They've called him a rabble-rouser. They've called him a lot of things. And soon they're going to be calling him His Honor, Mr. Mayor. So congratulations to America's mayor, Rudy Giuliani, for doing that endorsement of Curtis Sliwa. Because Lord knows, we need Curtis to win. New York City can't fall victim to the communist ideology of Zoran Mamdani, or the same ideology espoused by Cuomo. Anyway, I didn't mean to harp on New York for so long. I know a lot of you want to hear what's going on in the rest of the world, but I'd like to give you, probably the biggest election of the year, which is going to be the mayor's race in New York City. Now, I want to get into a couple other things today, right? Because, today is obviously the anniversary, the commemoration of the vicious attack by Hamas on Israel, October 7th. And we will be getting into that this evening with a number of our guests. And, of course, allowing you all to give a call and reminisce about it. And, talk about what you've seen. I know on previous occasions we've had guests on. And guess what? People call in. They say, look, I was there. And, the accounts that I've heard on this program, let me tell you, scary stuff to know and to hear what actually happened on October 7th. So we're going to get an update on that. A little while ago, I heard that, the recent polling on this event, this October 7th event, doesn't have the support that it did a couple of years ago. And obviously my initial reaction to that is, well, why would it? Right? Why would actively being attacked, right, have the same support today that it had 2 years ago? I don't know of any war that maintains support like that, right? Israel had enormous support because they were victimized by Hamas. So it makes all the sense in the world to me that it's beginning to dissipate, especially with the throes of this peace deal. Fantastic. Love that. So I think all systems are go on that front, and I think that's a good thing. And it doesn't help that there are a number of very, very influential, I'm going to call them people, right? People, some call them influencers, that have kind of done an about face on Israel and have really taken the administration in Israel, or at least aligned themselves with the left wing that opposes Netanyahu in Israel. And they've done that in the American media and online and through podcasts. And that obviously has an effect. There's an American audience that's attached to those things, and they're going to hear this stuff. And if you hear it every day, that can sway public opinion. So obviously, this is part of the propaganda war of any war, right? The information part of the war. And let me ask you, if you make statements like this, Israel has a right to defend itself, but if you dare question anything that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says, then therefore you are now considered an anti-Semite, right? When you make these very big statements, because I don't think anybody's saying that, right? I don't think people are saying if you criticize the government, the IDF, the Prime Minister, that you're automatically an anti-Semite. But a lot of people make this blanket statement to justify their anti-Israel position, right? Because that's really what it is in most cases. It's not simply a critique on strategy or policymaking. It's quite often, we don't like this, right? So anyway, who do you think benefits from that? Hamas or Israel? Exactly my point. Anyway, we're going to get into a number of things this evening, and not the least of which is what on earth is going on with law enforcement all across the country, being attacked by ICE people, in particular, by Antifa people attacking ICE and DHS and Border Patrol and even local law enforcement in some cases. This is out of control. And yesterday I talked about, what went down, and we played the audio of what happened in Chicago, where they said they didn't show up, and then they said, no, we went and took the report. This is out of control, and it's unacceptable. So I think it's high time we get some reaction and a statement from the spokesperson at the National Police Association, and we're going to do that straight ahead.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdes.
If you look at Chicago, Chicago's a great city where there's a lot of crime. And if the governor can't do the job, we'll do the job. It's all very simple. They probably had 50 murders in Chicago over the last 5, 6, 7 months. Many people were shot. And then the governor gets up and he says, well, we can handle it. They can't handle it. They don't know what they're doing. The mayor is grossly incompetent. He's at a 4% approval rating in Chicago. He's at a 4%, lowest approval rating, lower than even de Blasio had, which is hard to believe in New York. I thought de Blasio would always maintain that record, but the Chicago guy is even lower. So I think that we want safe cities.
We want safe cities. That's President Trump in the White House talking about the incompetence of the leadership. And let me tell you, I think President Trump is being extraordinarily generous here. I wouldn't say these guys are incompetent. I would say these guys are pro-crime, and they are coddling criminals. They want the crime. Earlier today, I was having a quick conversation with my kid and talking about how it is almost incumbent upon the Marxist to thrive in chaos. Without chaos, the Marxist doesn't exist. They have to create chaos. That's why they set fires. I read this in one of their books. You could check it out at Marxist.org if you want. I read it back in like 2019, and it was published back in the 80s. But my point is, this is what they do, and they study this, and they create a whole communist lifestyle, and they use socialism as their tool to move about things. And I think that's what's going on with these governors and mayors and whatnot. Not just Trump hatred, but I'm hoping that I'm wrong, that we don't have an entire police department that's turning their back on their federal, brethren, if you will, right? Ignoring the thin blue line and just leaving them out to dry when they were getting rammed off the road. I want to bring in our guest, Sergeant Betsy Brantner-Smith. She is the spokesperson for the National Police Association, and she's with us right now. Sarge, welcome back.
Rich, thanks for having me. And you are so spot on. I think they want dangerous cities. Leaders, quote unquote, leaders like Brandon Johnson in Chicago, they want chaos. They want crime because you know what? People who don't feel safe aren't free, and they don't want their citizens to feel free to vote, free to move around. They want to keep them trapped because that's the only way they can keep getting reelected. It's maddening, and I'm so glad you invited me to talk about this.
Well, thank you, Sarge. I appreciate that. And let me tell you, I think this is, I love that President Trump is he's the first president I've seen doing this, right? President H.W. Bush used the Insurrection Act in Los Angeles for the Rodney King riots, but it was to put down a riot. But President Trump, I think, is the first one that's had the foresight, the wisdom, and the wherewithal to say, hold on a second, this is not okay. It's not okay to have people, quote unquote, protesting. That's not a protest, spitting in the cop's face, shoving people, using fireworks, hitting police, shooting police with automatic, semi-automatic weapons. This is not protest. This is an all-out assault.
Well, it absolutely is. And I can tell you that the men and women of the Chicago Police Department, by and large, want to be able to help their federal partners. They want to be able to protect their federal partners. And the superintendent of police, Larry Snelling, he came out and at first he said, well, no, we were there trying to help ICE when they were at the park the other night and they were getting attacked. Now he has come out today and he's saying that because of the Trust Act, that's one of the laws in Illinois, the Trust Act prohibits law enforcement in the state of Illinois from engaging in assisting federal agents when it comes to immigration enforcement. Those agents that were asking for assistance from the Chicago Police Department the other night were not asking for help to arrest illegals. They were asking for help to save their own lives. And the Chicago Police Department has an obligation to step in, and the men and women of the Chicago Police Department want to do it, but they have an absolutely irresponsible mayor who just today got on the news and told people you need to go out there and battle ICE, and he used those words. He wants to see dead federal cops. There's no doubt in my mind.
Sarge, I appreciate what you're saying, and I have an affinity and a lot of love for everybody in law enforcement. But I got to tell you, I think that's a very clear distinction. If you're told by a matter of policy, hey, we're not here to help federal officers do their job, that's one thing. If federal officers are telling you we're being run off the road and we're requesting backup, that's a whole different story. And I think every cop that went to a police academy should know the difference. Sergeant Betsy Brantner-Smith, stand by. We're coming right back. We're going to continue this conversation with the spokesperson for the National Police Association and me, Rich Valdes. Don't go anywhere.
The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
Senator Merkley is out there saying that Trump is manufacturing this crisis in Portland. Where do you come down on National Guard troops being deployed to deal with this issue, and is the Insurrection Act necessary?
Well, I don't think any American who's seen the history of attacks on federal authority and federal property in Portland going back at least 5 years would say it's manufactured. Look, you always want to rely on local police first, and the police forces in these cities can probably do the job if they're allowed to do the job. Unfortunately, you have left-wing Democratic mayors who don't just restrain them from enforcing ordinary criminal laws. You have the mayor of Chicago who is telling his police department explicitly that he's not allowed to support federal immigration officers in their city. So think about that. You could have a shootout between depraved, criminal, illegal aliens and federal immigration enforcement authorities, and the Chicago Police Department are not going to come to their assistance. So if this continues and you have an open defiance and resistance of federal law, then of course the president has to at least consider the use of the National Guard and, if necessary, invoking the Insurrection Act, as has happened from time to time throughout our history, because we cannot have Democratic-run cities openly resisting federal authority inside of their cities.
That's Senator Tom Cotton on the Fox News channel. And the truth is, these left-wing mayors are truly holding back the police. And this is a problem. Our guest is Sergeant Betsy Brantner-Smith, National Police Association. Sarge, when it comes to Oregon, I think there's a big problem in Oregon, obviously. And the issue has kind of persisted, right? It's the left is kind of breeding, and they're creating lots of activists that are becoming more violent activists, like Antifa, the Rose City Antifa group, to be precise. And they're out there, they're being violent, they're doing all sorts of things, and now they're impeding federal officers. What's I guess the slowdown, right, in getting them there? I know the court stepped in and said you can't do this, you can't do that. What is going on? Is this just politics, or is this par for the course, from your experience?
Well, let's remember that Portland is basically the epicenter and the birthplace of Antifa. And and the ICE office there, as well as the federal courthouse, they have been fighting off Antifa for nearly a decade. It really ramped up in 2020 and 2021, and then it ramped up again this year in June. There were, just multiple riots and attacks. And if anybody has seen the picture of the ICE office there in Portland, it's all boarded up now. They can't have any glass. And it slowed down after June a little bit, and then in the last 10 days, it ramped up again because ICE came back and kind of tripled their efforts to get the worst of the illegal aliens out of the state of Oregon, and they processed them through that center. So, unfortunately, the Portland Police Bureau, the department there, whose chief is I'm just going to say it, he's a very weak man. He's a DEI consultant is his side job. He actually left in 2020 to go do DEI consultancy, and then he came back. Now, he met today with Kristi Noem. The mayor finally got in on that meeting. Kristi Noem also met with the governor. And yes. What the federal government is now asking for is to widen that perimeter around the ICE facility because their agents are getting attacked, very similar to Chicago. They're getting rammed, they're getting boxed in, and unfortunately, law enforcement there in Portland, the boots on the ground cops, my estimate is about 2/3 of them probably side with their mayor and their chief. So it's a very difficult situation. This is where the National Guard, Rich, would really do a great job in helping those agents. But we're going to have to see what the Ninth Circuit Court says about that. Or the Ninth Appellate Court.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think they're just slowing down the inevitable. Trump has had an incredible legal team this second go round, and I feel like he's not losing anything. And when he does, he ends up winning it anyway. After it makes its way up to the Supreme Court. The problem is that's how they slow him down. They make everything go to the Supreme Court because it becomes one of those a separation of powers issues. And I think this is one of those, right? This is a federal issue. It's immigration. It's also the use of the Insurrection Act. This is all federal stuff. And who but the federal chief executive can execute those functions. So I think it's well within his right, and I think it's nullification, right? Modern day nullification to see both Chicago creating anti-ICE zones and people in Portland doing what they're doing. But at the end of the day, I think this administration, Secretary Noem, AG Bondi, all of them, they're going to achieve their mission of making Portland a safer place, Chicago as well. And I guess your thoughts on, I guess, how long it's going to take, and are they going to continue to kick and scream your colleagues in the local constabulary, or will they eventually play ball?
I think most local police agencies are going to eventually get on board, despite the kicking and screaming of their leadership, again, with the possible exception of Portland. But I think what needs to change is the rhetoric that we're hearing. And our fear at the National Police Association is that we're going to have a murdered ICE agent or a murdered local police officer dealing with these issues, and it's going to directly go back to the horrific rhetoric that you hear from Newsom and Pritzker and Brandon Johnson and beyond. Let's not forget, it was two and a half weeks ago where we had an ICE facility in Dallas, Texas. We had a crazy kid climb up to the roof of a building and start shooting at what he thought was ICE agents. He killed 2 illegal aliens, sadly, and while the ICE agents saved the rest of them and got them to safety. And but I think we may see more of that because of this violent rhetoric and, frankly, this assassination culture, if you want to call it that we're in. And we are terrified that good police officers are going to die because of this. And I just want to remind everybody that these ICE agents are moms and dads and sons and daughters, and they're your neighbors and your kid's soccer coach. And they are not the monsters that these politicians are saying that they are. And they're doing the job that Congress told them to do. These laws are not made by ICE, and they weren't made by Donald Trump. And we've got to remember that what those agents are doing and what the Trump administration is doing is cleaning up Joe Biden and the Democrats' mess. This was all self-created by the last administration.
Man, I couldn't have said that any better myself. Sergeant Betsy Brantner-Smith, please let everybody know how they can keep up to speed with you on social media as well as your website at the National Police Association.
You can follow me at SGT Betsy Smith on X. You can follow the National Police Association at Nat Police Assoc. And go to nationalpolice.org. See all the great things we do. Hit that donate button if you can. And take a look at the FOIA requests that we just filed to get Brandon Johnson to start telling the truth about illegal aliens in his city. It's brilliant. And everybody listening, you'll love it. Go to our website, nationalpolice.org.
Folks, go to the website, check it out, support the cause if you can. Sergeant Betsy Brantner-Smith continues to do some amazing work on behalf of law enforcement across the country. Thanks for that FOIA request and all the other work you're doing. Godspeed.
Thanks for having me, Rich.
Always a pleasure. And amigos, we continue. Other topics that we've got to jump into. We have a couple of things that are going on here. AG Bondi, she was on the hot seat today with members of the Senate in a oversight hearing on Capitol Hill. We're going to hear a little bit about that. Plus, we're going to get to your thoughts, your calls, your reactions, and so much more. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDES.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes. Call now, 833-4-VALDES. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDES. That's Valdes with an S. Call now, 833-4-VALDES. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDES. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdes. And I want to get into a number of things. Of course, AG Pam Bondi was in the hot seat. I'm going to get to that momentarily. I want to get your reactions as well, 833-4-VALDES. And a quick reminder that you can always catch up on the latest of what's going on our show, all of our guests and whatnot, at richvaldes.com. That's Valdes with an S. And if you're not following on all of the socials, please do. In a little bit, we'll be putting out an announcement for an interview that we're doing tomorrow. That'll air tomorrow, which is with Charlie Sheen. He's been out there discussing his new Netflix documentary. We're going to have Charlie Sheen on the show tomorrow. I'm looking forward to sharing our conversation with you and getting your reactions to that as well. But right now, I want to go to Paul. He's calling us from Boise, Idaho, streaming the show tonight. Paul, go right ahead.
Yeah, I didn't catch all that was about Portland, but I did catch the Chicago.
What's on your mind?
Well, I didn't hear anybody discuss the Latin Kings, who in Chicago are primo. I mean, they are number one. They tell Brandon what to do. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and yesterday there was a report out that there was a $10,000 bounty on the head of an ICE officer, I think it was. And I thought that was crazy. Latin Kings in Chicago getting a little gangsta out there. In the past, the Latin Kings have come down on different sides of cultural struggles. And I remember during the last set of riots, they were protecting the bodegas. This time around, they are, I guess, still protecting the bodegas, as in their belief, protecting them from ICE. But yet, you're right, Paul. Chicago has a lot of gang issues. And we had a alderman from Chicago on, Raymond Lopez. He's a Democrat. Matter of fact, by his description, he says he's gay and he's a Latino and he's a Democrat. And he was telling us how he doesn't support a lot of this stuff. And he also mentioned to us when we had him on the show that there are people in city council right now, or other aldermen, that have family that are pretty entrenched in gang activity in the city of Chicago. So, things are definitely not hunky-dory, as they say. Paul, thanks for the call, my brother. I appreciate it. I want to continue with the rest of your calls. Let's go to Tom. Tom's in Columbia, South Carolina, WQXL. Tom, go right ahead. You're on with Rich Valdes. Go ahead.
Hey, Mr. Valdes. That Sergeant Betsy Smith was sure articulate. Can I go back to your earlier topic of Sliwa and Mondami?
Anything you want.
Okay, I got a list of benefits for electing Sliwa or consequences for Mondami. It's about a minute long. Let me know if there's an ounce of truth to it. All right?
Sure.
All right. This house has been defiled. So what to teach your child? Sliwa's reason or Mondami's treason? A promise for posterity or miss our prosperity? Earn respect for something or learn to expect something for nothing? Leg out a living or beg for what they are giving? Acquire skills for security or dire ills from immaturity? A handy man who can manage or Dandy Dan who does damage? Protect and strengthen America's heart or a suspect who threatens to tear it apart? Obligated to faith, hope, and charity or relegated to fate, dope, and parody? Demands the best for our nation or damns the next generation? Replenish what you earn or diminish your return? Endeavor to learn or forever yearn? It's do or die, for night is nigh. Vote Sliwa. See ya.
Listen, brother, not only was there at least an ounce of truth to it, but great rhyme and great reason as well. Tom, I always appreciate those poems you put together. I don't know how you do it, but you do it, and you do a great job of it. Thanks for the call, brother. God bless you. WXQL in the building. And we're going to continue with your calls, your thoughts, and that clip I promised you from Attorney General Pam Bondi. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
Thanks for what you do. You have so many people. You ask the questions that if the viewer had a microphone, they would ask that question, and you seem to always ask it right at the right time. So God bless you, my friend.
America at Night with Rich Valdes.
This is what was happening under Joe Biden. United States senators spied upon. Former presidents, the political opponents of the president at the time, targeted, prosecuted. Pro-lifers, targeted, prosecuted. Catholics, targeted, prosecuted. 92 conservative organizations put under surveillance, targeted for potential prosecution. Gee, I don't know. Would you call that an example of weaponization, Attorney General Bonnie? Do you think that's a fair characterization?
Senator Hawley, that is the ultimate weaponization. And weaponization under Donald Trump has ended. It has ended. Harmeet Dillon is running our civil rights unit, and she is doing an incredible job. No longer will parents be targeted. No longer will parents who care about whether their elementary school children have to read a transgender book be targeted and told they cannot have any say in their child's education. That has ended under this administration. People can worship freely, whether they're Catholics at synagogues or Muslims. Everyone can worship freely. That was the ultimate weaponization. They were targeting Catholics. No longer. They have been targeting so many American citizens throughout this country. And Senator Hawley, you have been a champion of this, and thank you for being a champion of that. But under Donald Trump's watch, it has ended.
That is Attorney General Pam Bondi. And listen, I'm happy that this is happening. I'm happy that this is in the public record. It's, in my opinion, right? It's important for you to know what's going on, right? Think about this in terms of your real life, right? Let us just say you find out that, I don't know, I'm going to use a real simple example. I don't know if anybody gets newspapers anymore, but back in the days when your neighbors used to, get out early and steal, your newspaper. Or what about Amazon packages? Something like that, right? Where you find out, somebody's taking my stuff, right? Amazon packages could be very costly. But my point is, you can go to them and say, hey, listen, you've been stealing my Amazon packages? And they're going to turn around and say, no, what are you talking about? It wasn't me. I don't know what you're talking about. You're making stuff up? That's crap. How dare you? But guess what? Who's got the power here? You or them. Until you didn't know, you were going to continue getting robbed. Now that you know, they're like, this guy's on to me. So either they've got to clean up their game and get better at robbing you, or they can't rob you anymore because they know you might be looking. That is the power in this. It's not about saying they're not going to do anything about it anyway. Nobody's going to go to jail, so it doesn't really matter. It's a bunch of corrupt uniparty people. That's just called being a malcontent, right? You're looking for a reason to lose. I'm asking you to look for a reason to win. Because in politics, there's always a win. That's how this thing works. And this isn't about winning a fight. It's about winning consistently. Anyway, that was my 2 cents on that. I've got more Pam Bondi. I've got some October 7th stuff we're going to talk about. Plus, our buddy Dinesh D'Souza. He's got a lot to say. We're going to talk to him soon. Don't go anywhere.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdes, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdes.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdes, Valdes with an S, at Rich Valdes on all of the social media. Welcome back for another hour. It's Tuesday night. Happy and blessed to be here. The phone number, if you want to join us on our late night national town hall conversation, give me a call. 833-4825-337, 833-4-VALDES, and it is 7 minutes past the top of the hour. And I got to tell you, I'm loving this this weather. I don't know if it's politically correct anymore. I think they used to call it Indian summer, where it's in the 80s and whatnot into October. I'm loving that. It's given me a little less of a desire to run to Miami as soon as it gets cold, because it hasn't really gotten cold, although it gets a little nippy at night. But anyway, that wasn't really what I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to throw that in there. And I want to get into a bunch of things. Obviously, today is the commemoration of the October 7th attacks. And here we are on the I'm hoping on the eve, right, of a peace deal being finalized. President Trump putting forward a 20-point plan a couple of days back, and Ambassador Witkoff, the special envoy working on behalf of Secretary Rubio, and President Trump representing the United States in these negotiations, is with Jared Kushner, who is a former member of President Trump's administration and a current member of his family, to try and make a deal. And I'm hoping that they pull it off, right? Now, I know some people are saying, why does Jared Kushner have to be involved? All I could say is, dating back to the very first president, President George Washington, there have been special advisors to every administration. George Washington had special attachés. They don't have to be members of the government. But when the president comes tapping on your shoulder and says, hey, I need you to do this, and you have a connection or the ability to do X, Y, or Z, you do it. And that's really what it's about. And it's nothing new. I mean, this was the criticism they also gave of Rudy Giuliani when he was advising President Trump. He was not his lawyer yet. He had taken a trip to Ukraine independently. Remember that, when all that happened? And then they said, Rudy Giuliani's violating the FARA Act. He's doing this, he's doing that. He hadn't violated anything, actually. And they said the president can't use these people that haven't been confirmed by the Senate. Nobody's elected Rudy Giuliani, yada, 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 yada. Right? They said all that. And it was all fake, phony, and fraud. This is just what the left and the media do when something is working and they can't figure out how to criticize it. They will try and tear it down. Right? This is what they do. You can't ever get one over on them. You can't ever get anything right. You can't do something that's good for America. God forbid, because they'll come at you. So that's going on, and we're going to have some conversation about that. I saw this article, though, that I wanted to share with you before I take a pause. Rite Aid has filed for bankruptcy and will be closing all stores. Now, I haven't been to Rite Aid in a while, but the last time I went, I had a pretty pleasant experience. Is this because they have to hide, a lot of their products? Or like Curtis Lewa says, we're now living in we live in a city where we don't lock up the criminals, but we lock up the deodorant at the pharmacy. And he's not kidding, right? If you go to buy deodorant in New York City, you can't get it. It's locked up behind lock and key. You've got to get somebody to open it for you. Why? Because they've been stealing like crazy. So if they're stealing like crazy, then what's up? What's the next step? What is good with that? Well, obviously, this is what happens with that. You go ahead and you lose your business. And that is exactly what is going on. Now, I also wanted to take a moment to congratulate Ambassador Campos, the new ambassador to the Dominican Republic. She is the sister of Rachel Campos Duffy, who is the wife of Secretary Sean Duffy. And nice people. I saw the Duffys at some event that I went to. Very, very nice, beautiful family. And the right people in the right job is, I think, a really important thing. Something I wanted to say was she was not the only one that was confirmed today. The Senate has now confirmed more than 100 Trump nominees today. Despite the government shutdown, Senate Republicans have confirmed 107 of President Trump's nominees in a vote of 51 to 47. So that is a good thing. I wish I had a list here. I know there's a bunch of people on there. The last couple that I saw Ambassador Duffy, who had been waiting. Another one that was confirmed was Sergio Gore, or I guess we can call him His Excellency, the now ambassador to India and special envoy for that region of the world. So congratulations to Sergio Gore, the, I guess, outgoing director of the White House Personnel Office. And good for you. Congratulations to all of you. And I'm sure there's a lot of other people on this list. I'll get through it during the break and do a few more shout outs. But I think congratulations are in order. And I want to also talk about a couple of things. Here's another one. I just wanted to throw a crazy story into this because we were just talking about New York City. And America's mayor, Rudy Giuliani, has officially penned his endorsement for Curtis Sliwa. Of course, Rudy Giuliani enlisted Curtis Sliwa when he was cleaning up New York City back in 1993. He asked the Guardian Angels to partner with the NYPD to make New York safer. Right? This is something that Cuomo's never done. This is something that Mamdani's never done. This is something Curtis has done, and he's done it for a very long time. And Mayor Giuliani endorsed Curtis Sliwa back in 2021, and he's doing it again. And I'm just glad he did. I wasn't sure if he was going to be involved in any New York City politics because he'd moved to Palm Beach pretty much exclusively, right? I think selling his place in the city after that big case he had. And I just say thank you to America's Mayor Rudy Giuliani, and then of course thanks to Curtis Sliwa for putting himself out there. We're gonna give you some up to speed analysis on that race, like you're probably not going to get anywhere else because there's a few people I'm gonna call on to give us the scoop. People that are in the New York City Council, people that are on the ground, and of course Curtis Sliwa himself. We'll have him back on real soon. But all that being said, I want to talk about October 7th. I want to talk about the overall larger, I would say, threat that radical Islam puts on society, right? And we're seeing it, not only society in the United States, but you've got a society, I would say, kind of all over the world, right? You saw this huge thing, about 3.5 million people after a series of crimes were committed in England, taking to the streets with Tommy Robinson, who was jailed for his own free speech. And people are fed up. You've got a lot of patriots that served in the British military that are saying, look, we're not dealing with this. And they don't have the same type of free speech that we do. They go to jail for Facebook posts. Not Facebook jail, real jail, right? And I'm sure by now you've seen plenty of those videos where you have a couple of cops, usually they send a female cop and another cop or two female cops, and with a little checkered pattern on their hat, their traditional uniform, saying, hi, we're here because, you've endangered the peace or something crazy, right? Thought crimes, speech crimes, no actual crimes, where they're confiscating computers, giving warnings. I mean, it's really a wild system that they've gotten in the UK. So we're going to get into that. But by the way, the Prime Minister of Canada, he was in the White House today on some state business, because I think the White House is currently closed for any public business, like anything not requiring, state business. And President Trump was having a conversation, and like usual, somebody from the media tried to trip up President Trump with a tough question, and him and the Canadian leader had a good moment. Listen to this.
And he does a great job, but he's a tough negotiator.
So then what's the So then what's holding things up? If he's a great man and you want to do a deal with Canada, why aren't you?
Because I want to be a great man too. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I think you got that one.
Doing what President Trump and only President Trump can do, in my opinion. Well, I think Reagan was great at cracking a good joke and disarming the media, but he does it so well, and you got to love that. America's president, Donaldus Magnus El Trompito, the 45th and 47th president of these United States. All right, straight ahead, I want to continue our discussion on the radicalization of Islam throughout the world, the threat that poses to our national and homeland security, as well as some thoughts and remarks on this commemoration of October 7th, the Hamas attack on Israel. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at at Night with Rich Valdes.
By the way, your ratings are up. Congratulations. I had somebody. It's always nice to check. I like to see, even if they're friends, I like to see how are they doing. Are people listening, right?
That's
but
right.
You're doing great.
America at Night with Rich Valdes.
Then another sign appeared in heaven. An enormous red dragon. Revelation 12:3.
Once again, an armed attack in the Middle East, but this time it's different.
October 7th was the devil's holiday.
It's very hard to believe what happened, even though I was there and seeing with my own eyes and seeing them laughing and killing and having fun with it.
Because if you don't open the door, they are going to kill you and they are going to kill me, so please open the door.
That is a clip from the trailer for this film, The Dragon's Prophecy. Check out the Dragon's Prophecy film.com. It's a new film by Dinesh D'Souza. He's the filmmaker that brought you Police State and 2,000 Mules and so many other films for the last many years. And he's got this new one, and he's here to tell us all about it. Dinesh, welcome back.
Rich, it's a great pleasure. Thanks for having me on. This film is a little bit of a departure from me. My other ones have been in one way or another all about the meaning of America. This one covers not just the political, but also the biblical and the prophetic. It's about, yes, October 7th and Israel and Hamas, but also radical Islam, biblical archaeology, a hint of biblical prophecy. So it charts some new territory, but I think very much needed for our time.
Yeah, and now I know this part of the inspiration for this film was from Rabbi Jonathan Cahn's book, and I had him on to discuss that a while back, and he's always excellent in that. And how did you use that and I guess the news of the day and the current events to come up with the final concept for this film?
So I begin on the ground on October 7th, and I begin with about, 10 minutes of just unrelenting October 7th footage. I just put you right on the scene, and incredibly, most people in this country haven't seen it. But how can you discuss these issues without some, experience of what it was like to be there? And interestingly, the footage is taken from the point of view of Hamas. So you almost feel, Rich, like you and I are like on motorcycles and we're riding into these kibbutzes from the Gaza side, right? Then I frame the questions. I say, look, Israel is being attacked from the left by people like Ilhan Omar. They say that it's a colonizing power. It's also being attacked from the right by people like Tucker Carlson, who say, wait a minute, how do we know that these Jews of today are really descended from the ancient Israelites? What makes you think it's their land in the first place? And so we're often running with this kind of inquiry. But the inquiry doesn't just stay on the political, because Jonathan Cahn opens up this idea that the battle between Israel and Hamas is a kind of eerie replay or recreation of battles between the ancient Israelites and the Philistines. And so we draw out some of Kahn's, very interesting analogies where he finds, for example, the four colors of the apocalypse, and there you find them on the Palestinian flag. Or the very name Hamas, which in Arabic means something like force or strength, but in Hebrew means violence. And in fact, in the Hebrew Bible, you can read, Lord, save me from the men of Hamas. So we have Cahn spelling out all of this stuff in a very provocative way. But then, Kahn's audience is mainly people who accept the Bible. I have also a secular audience, and so I know there's going to be people who say, well, yeah, Dinesh, but, how do we know that these biblical figures, Pontius Pilate, Isaiah, Jeremiah, King David, how do we know these were real people and the Bible is talking about real historical events? And so I have a section on biblical archaeology in which I'm in the archaeological dig, We're looking at stones and seals and clay seals and inscriptions and monuments, and we're able to authenticate the historicity of the Hebrew and the Christian scriptures. But not only that, through archaeology, we can prove the existence of the Jews in their homeland, in that ancient land, going back 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years. And then the next section of the film is very political. I interview Netanyahu one-on-one. I have a conversation with the ambassador, Mike Huckabee, Eric Stakelbeck. So the film kind of moves seamlessly between the political and the spiritual, ultimately making the point that there is a cosmic battle of good and evil that is being reflected in the ordinary circumstances that we see in front of us.
Folks, we're on with Dinesh D'Souza, who's directed 8 documentary films, a whole bunch of them, some of the highest grossing political documentaries of all time. I remember the first one there, Obama's America. That was a doozy, and there's been a bunch ever since. And Dinesh, I want to get your take. We're, I hope, days away from finalizing this 20-point plan that President Trump has proposed to Hamas and to Israel. Does it happen?
I think it might. Let me put it this way. I'm hopeful. I won't say I'm optimistic, but I'm hopeful because I think Trump is coming from a new angle. I've seen over my adult lifetime 7 or 8 peace plans, from the Carter plan, the Clinton plan, and blah, blah, blah. And none of them have really made any significant headway. But I think Trump's approach is to come at it almost like a real estate guy. And he looks at all this rubble and he goes, what a waste. He goes, we need to see some clean apartments. We need a Trump tower, maybe a Trump hotel. We need people in suits going to work. We need productivity. We need high-tech firms. So Trump is like, all right, look, I'm going to give these guys an option. I'm going to give them a fork in the road. Now, maybe they're too twisted or too indoctrinated, and maybe they, as some of them say, we love blood. So maybe they're going to say no. You cannot predict with Hamas. But I think Trump has already come further along than anyone that I've seen in world politics. And so there is a chance of getting this to the finish line. Now, how enduring such a peace would be is another matter, but it would be progress just to be able to get signatures on this agreement.
Amen to that. Amigos, Dinesh D'Souza, he's producer and director of the new film, The Dragon's Prophecy. Check out the website, thedragonsprophecyfilm.com. Dinesh, this comes out tomorrow, is that right?
It's in theaters only one day, tomorrow, and then the next day it goes into streaming and DVD. And the website you gave is the place to get both theater tickets, but also the place to sign up for streaming and sign up for DVDs.
Outstanding. Dinesh, thanks for being here, brother. Godspeed to you. Amigos, thedragonsprophecyfilm.com. Check it out. Dinesh is a patriot. Hoping to have him back soon. I'm coming right back. Don't go anywhere.
After the guest leaves every night and we're doing open phones, kind of at the heartbeat of America. And you sit there in this radio studio and suddenly you hear voices. Mobile, Dallas, New York, Miami. And there's kind of a conglomeration of America all in one room.
This is what was happening under Joe Biden. United States senators spied upon. Former presidents, the political opponents of the president at the time, targeted, prosecuted. Pro-lifers, targeted, prosecuted. Catholics, targeted, prosecuted. 92 conservative organizations put under surveillance, targeted for potential prosecution. Gee, I don't know. Would you call that an example of weaponization, Attorney General Bonnie? Do you think that's a fair characterization?
Senator Hawley, that is the ultimate weaponization. And weaponization under Donald Trump has ended. It has ended. Harmeet Dillon is running our civil rights unit, and she is doing an incredible job. No longer will parents be targeted. No longer will parents who care about whether their elementary school children have to read a transgender book be targeted and told they cannot have any say in their child's education. That has ended under this administration. People can worship freely, whether they're Catholics at synagogues or Muslims. Everyone can worship freely. That was the ultimate weaponization. They were targeting Catholics. No longer. They have been targeting so many American citizens throughout this country. And Senator Hawley, you have been a champion of this, and thank you for being a champion of that. But under Donald Trump's watch, it has ended.
That is Attorney General Pam Bondi, and I played that one before. I'm going to play it again, but that was, again, her setting the record straight of what's going on. But she got some pushback on that, right? Cut number 6, she went at it with Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois, and here's what that sounded like. Check this out.
The word is, and I think it's been confirmed by the White House, they are going to transfer Texas National Guard units to the state of Illinois. What's the rationale for that?
Yeah, Chairman, as you shut down the government, you voted to shut down the government, and you're sitting here, our law enforcement officers aren't being paid. They're out there working to protect you. I wish you loved Chicago as much as you hate President Trump. And currently, the National Guard are on the way to Chicago. If you're not going to protect your citizens, President Trump will.
Boom, mic drop from Attorney General Pam Bondi. And listen, she's right. This isn't just political theater. This is part of his constitutional requirement as president, is to provide that safety and to protect the civil rights of all Americans. And if they're not going to do it at the state level, he's got no choice but to do it, especially in the wake of this being something that's a federal jurisdiction, right? It's ICE, it's Immigration and Customs Enforcement. That is not something that falls in the purview of local law enforcement. So this is only the job. It's not the governor's job to protect anybody in that realm. It's strictly the job of the executive branch. So anyway, I want to get your thoughts on that, on Israel, on October 7th, on everything else that's going on. Let's see, where do we go? We're going to go right here to Eric. He's in Lansing, Michigan on WILS line 2. Eric, go right ahead. You're on with Rich Valdes.
Thank you, Rich. Great program. I just thought I'd offer something that would capsulize the distinction between the Democrats and the Republicans. And that's regarding one of our famous historic sayings, land of the free, home of the brave. And the Republicans tend to stay true to that, land of the free, home of the brave. But the Democrats have veered off into land of the freeloader, home of the knave. And I think that's just a wonderful way of simplifying the understanding of the two different philosophies. And one thing I am tired of, though, is people being polite. And I know our president's a great guy. He's doing a great job. But he was so polite in referring to these Democrat governors and mayors as incompetent. They're not incompetent. They're subversives. They're trying to undercut the legitimate government of the United States. And we ought to quit pussyfooting around about that and call it what it is.
Well, you know what? I appreciate that he gives us the opportunity to do that and to have that discussion here in the public discourse on our late night national town hall conversation while he remains above the fray, right? You know, as they have criticized him in the past, not presidential. So now he's very presidential, right? I think you're right. He's very generous. He's very polite. And you're right. These people are unscrupulous. They're dishonest. And they're looking to give everything away at your expense, my expense, the expense of our children, and perhaps even our children's children. Eric, really, really good comment. Again, Democrats want the United States to go from being the land of the free and the home of the brave to the land of the freeloader and the home of the knave. Excellent. Brilliant, brilliant point. Thank you for your call, my brother. I appreciate it. Let us continue. Oh, here we go. We got a doozy on the line. Let's get ready. Jerome, Charleston, South Carolina, WTMA. Jerome, go right ahead, sir. You're on with Rich Valdes.
Doozy alert, doozy alert,
doozy alert.
Can blonde Bimbolina, can she be any more condescending? Did you see that little hearing today? She didn't answer now one question. Now, and Adam Schiff had her for lunch. And
stop. I have that clip. Do we have the Adam Schiff clip? If we have it, let me know, Mr. Good. I want to play it for Jerome. But this, first of all, I don't think anybody had her lunch today. I think she held her own, and she gave it right back to them. Adam Schiff is there. Let me tell you, Adam Schiff's not great at that. He's not great at trying to own people in those things. He tends to get his butt handed to him every now and again, right? The last time around, he did the same thing. Kash Patel, I thought, chewed him up and spit him out. And they're not used to it because they're ready to turn around and threaten them with contempt of Congress, the way they did with others in the past who ended up in jail. Good luck putting the AG and the FBI director even trying to threaten them with that. So you need to, learn your place and say, hey, look, we're going to have decorum, collegiality, respect. But when they throw that out the window, these guys are, their job is to argue. They're lawyers, and they're doing a good job of it. So I don't think that's the case. Now, you say she's a bimbo, Jerome. I want to know the bimbo. Well, you know what? I have the audio. Listen to this.
This is supposed to be an oversight hearing.
Oversight?
Excuse me. You can attack me after my time is over.
You've attacked all of us, including President Trump, for your entire
You can attack me later,
career.
and I know you've got plenty of canned attacks. We've heard them all day today.
Canned attacks on you?
This is supposed to be...
No one needs a canned attack on you.
Regular order, Madam Chair. I'm trying to speak. This is supposed to be an oversight hearing of the Justice Department. And it comes in the wake of an indictment called for by the president of one of his enemies. This is supposed to be an oversight hearing, and it comes in the wake of revelations that a top administration official took $50,000 in a bag, and this department made that investigation go away. This is supposed to be an oversight hearing when dozens of prosecutors have been fired simply because they worked on cases investigating the former president. This is, and now
what
the current
about
president.
The fires in California?
And
Do you
this
care
is
about
supposed
that,
to
Senator
be.
Schiff?
This is supposed to be an oversight hearing in which members of Congress can get serious answers to serious questions about
Are the riots in LA serious?
About the cover-up of corruption, about the prosecution of the president's enemies. And
I think you owe the president an apology.
When will it be
your entire career, frankly.
that the members of this committee on a bipartisan basis demand answers to those questions?
Okay, there you have it, Jerome. You tell me who's owning who. He's throwing everything he can across against the wall to see what sticks. He's bringing up stuff from the Biden administration when they could have taken action on these allegations against Holman or anybody else, and they did absolutely nothing. So he's trying to bully the attorney general, and it backfires. You see something different there?
What $50,000? What bag would $50,000 pay me? What $50,000? I don't know anything about any $50,000. Yeah, right. She makes you look like a lightweight because she sells out so bad and condescending. Oh my goodness!
Well, she's only giving what she's getting, Jerome. Come on, and you don't know nothing about $50,000 in a bag. Come on, bro. I know how you roll.
Was it a brown bag? What color was the bag?
It was a potato chip bag from Eric Adams.
Was it a Wendy's bag? Oh my God.
If it was a Wendy's bag, I'd know a little something about that. Jerome,
$50,000.
$50K. Now, we got to ask Kamala what she knows because she's had a little bit more than $50K in that bag. Jerome, I got to run here. Charleston, South Carolina, WTMA. Shout out to you guys. Amigos, I'm coming right back. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes. Call now, 833-4-VALDES. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDES. That's Valdes with an S.
Look at Rich Valdes. He's now a radio host, and he's a great radio host.
America at Night with Rich Valdes.
What we're talking about is authoritarianism. We could have talked about Pol Pot. We could have talked about authoritarians across history. I chose something I know very well. I helped to build a Holocaust museum. And what I know is in the early days of the Nazi regime, they started slowly but surely taking away people's rights. And what we're seeing now is the very same thing. They've gone into cities now with the military. Think about that. In your lifetime, have you ever seen anything like that, where the President of the United States is sending military or troops dressed as military, ICE and CBP, in camouflage with automatic weapons into our major cities? It's wrong. And indeed, especially at a time when it's the President of the United States who's causing the mayhem on the ground. We've actually done very well in Chicago, bringing down crime, addressing the needs of victims.
That's Governor J.B. Pritzker. And man, he couldn't be more hopelessly wrong. So, yeah, it is the fault of the President of the United States who's causing the mayhem on the ground. He's talking about President Biden, who opened up the floodgates to illegal aliens that caused a wave of crime that's still being cleaned up. So, yeah, when you talk about ICE and CBP, you see how he's conflating? He's talking about crime, but then he's talking about ICE and CBP, right? And these are two distinct things. While there might be a correlation coefficient in between, like a little overlap in Venn diagrams, this is clearly him trying to deflect. And yes, have I seen that before? I think we've all seen ICE and CBP dressed in camouflage before. We've seen the Border Patrol on the border. And when the border has now come into people's backyards, the Border Patrol is in your backyard, too. Thank God. That means they're doing their job now. They weren't able to do it before. And the other part of this, talking about he started a Holocaust museum and this and that, this guy is really a piece of work. So he says that this is the early days of the Nazi regime. Trump is the same thing. We have no rights. We're slowly, surely taking away people's rights. I don't know what rights anybody's losing. But I can tell you that every day the media tells me that that somehow I am going to get deported because I'm brown, that I'm being targeted. And every day I drive around sometimes faster than the speed limit. I do all sorts of things that sometimes are not according to Hoyle or Robert's Rules of Orders, if you will. I'm not a criminal, but, if my foot's a little heavy in my V8, then so be it. And guess what? Nobody, not cops, not ICE, nobody's pulling me over. You know why? Because God bless America. I'm brown, and I'm marking myself safe, as I've said in the past. This guy is really just full of it. He's trying to get a bump in his polls, and I don't think it's going to work. But I want to get your thoughts on what's going on. I want to go to Illinois. Let's go to Justin. He's calling us from Chicago on WLS. Justin, go right ahead.
Yes, hello here. I just want to let you know something, and I'm a Republican, but I'm a Chicago PD. And that building there on South Shore that got raided there by, you had the ICE agents coming in there, and you even had some National Guard in the area when it went down. I'm going to tell you, that was the most unconstitutional thing I'd ever seen in my life. And I've been on the force for 22 years. Those people were lined up and taken outside. I mean, we've done our own gang unit task force. If we have a building where we think MS-13 or Latin Kings are in there, we have a list. We do our research. Them people went in not knowing what unit they were in. Those people were all taken out of their homes and taken outside into the street, and I saw this. And my whole squadron
What
saw
part
this.
of the Constitution are you saying is being violated here?
They were taken out without a warrant out of their home. People who lived in their home who might have been 4 doors down, hell, 5 doors down from the folks they were looking for, and they were taken out of their house to prevent a very threatening way. And I witnessed this with my own eyes. I saw a 3-year-old.
Let me ask you, since you're a cop, don't you know how the federal government works and how the Supreme Court has sided with Border Patrol, with ICE, with DHS being allowed to conduct business the way they do? I mean, they're literally following what the Supreme Court says they can do.
On scene. It was the most unconstitutional thing I'd ever seen, and I voted for Donald Trump.
Have you read the ruling that the Supreme Court put out last week? No, I'm not. You're talking crap. You had your turn. You're starting to lie, so I have to call you out. Now, Justin, you said that this is unconstitutional. You said it like 4 times. Tell me if you've read the ruling that came from the Supreme Court recently.
Listen, I know you get paid to do what you do, but I was there. and I'm paid to be a cop. What was going on there? How would you like if there was a criminal 5 doors down from the condo you live in, you and your family are woke up at gunpoint with your kids drug outside and zip-tied out on the sidewalk like that? I saw a little 5-year-old face down. That's not how you do this. And the reason
You saw a 5-year-old face down? Send me the pictures. Send me the pictures. There's not a TV. Dead ass. You are a liar, sir. Dead ass. I'm calling you a liar. And I want you to prove me wrong. Send me your body cam.
Hey, my badge number is 2719.
Justin, I didn't ask for your badge number. I asked you for your body cam or when you... Oh, did he hang up? What a punk. I want body cam footage. I want you, since you're an officer of the law, you pulled out your phone, I'm sure, and you said, this is unconstitutional. As a cop, I'm going to take my phone out, and I am going to record this, and I am going to tell these people that this is wrong. There's a 5-year-old being held at gunpoint, zip-tied, face down on the ground. Find me the video. Find me the video, sir. Shut me up and set me straight. So, yes, I'm calling you a liar. Thanks for calling and lying on the show and not backing it up. I'll be right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
All right, amigos, welcome back. And again, anybody that's got the video this man is talking about, send it my way. I support law enforcement all day, every day. But good old Justin, badge number, whatever he said, he's full of it, fake, phony fraud. Let us continue. I want to go to Al. Al's in Arcadia, Florida, WENG. Very quickly, speed round. Go for it.
Rich, man, it's good talking to you, dude. What I want to talk to you about is about the Spanish Civil War, dude. The Democrats want to talk about how, like, they want to reenact the Civil War or whatever, but they were the party that started the Civil War. You know what I mean? Like, they were the party of slavery. So they don't know anything. But anyway, in the Spanish Civil War, a great writer wrote a novel called For Whom the Bell Tolls, and it was Ernest Hemingway.
Yeah.
You ever read that one, man?
I might have read it in high school, but I couldn't remember a thing about it. Anyway, make your point really quickly. 10 or 15 more seconds. I got to move on.
Move on, brother, because I'm just telling you, dude, read this book. It's about America.
All right. For Whom the Bell Tolls by Ernest Hemingway. I will give it a second. Check it out. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. Let me continue here. Let me see. John, Lanham, Maryland, WMAL. 40 seconds. Go for it, my man.
Yeah, I just want to say I haven't seen the movie Dragon Prophecy, but I've been following Jonathan Carr for a while. And I saw over the weekend, I saw a video, documentary a man did after the gruesomeness that happened on October 7th. And I don't have no sympathy for the children, yes, but for the adults, the Palestinians, they were in there. Maybe they weren't with weapons or anything, but they were stealing everything they could out of the people's homes, driving off tractors. And you know, how can you have any sympathy for somebody like that? Wouldn't the people laying there dead?
I hear you, John. Thank you very much for the call. I appreciate it. It is so difficult. I had a big little mini debate with somebody over lunch about that, about how I feel bad for the kids in Gaza, and I hope that they get them out of there soon. Amigos, hasta la próxima. Take care. Good night, and God bless you, America. I'll be right back.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdes, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdes.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdes, Valdes with an S, at Rich Valdes on all of the social media. Welcome back. It's the Tuesday night edition of the program. We're live and national. Happy to be with you. Truly a blessing to be here. The phone number, if you want to join us on our late night national town hall conversation, 833-4825-337, 833-4-Valdes. And again, today, the anniversary of the horrific attacks that occurred on October 7th. Hamas attacking Israel, and we're now days away, I hope, from a peace deal. You've got the American team on deck in the Middle East trying to figure things out, and I want to get some feedback from the former mayor of Shiloh, Israel. He's the founder of the Shiloh Israel Children's Fund and the author of the book, Trump and the Jews. Mayor David Rubin, welcome, sir.
Well, thank you. Good to be with you, Rich.
Very good. Mr. Good, I don't hear him very well. If you can give me some volume, that'd be great. And thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to get your take on how things are right now from your perspective on the ground in Israel. How is the mood? Do you guys feel like you're days away from a peace deal or not so much?
Well, things are very tense, and people are hoping that there will be a hostage release deal at the absolute minimum, and the absolute first thing should be the release of the hostages, all of the hostages, and all in one shot. This is something that we've been waiting for 2 years, and it should have been done a long time ago, but Hamas has been playing games, and they've been playing very sick games, sick and sadistic games, with these innocent hostages that they kidnapped exactly 2 years ago. At the same time, it's unfortunate that the complexity of the deal includes that Israel will have to release 250 terrorists who were convicted of murdering Israeli civilians, and some of the worst terrorists in the history of mankind. That's who Hamas is demanding to be released in exchange for these hostages. And of course, they're also demanding a ceasefire and complete end and complete Israeli withdrawal from Gaza, which is, after all, part of the historical land of Israel. So their demands are crazy. Trump announced the plan. Israel agreed to that plan, and that's what we should be going by, not having further negotiations after a plan is already accepted. That's real acceptance, if you're having further negotiations and demands after.
Right. And listen, I get that. It's got to be frustrating. Now, I understand that on behalf of President Trump and Secretary Rubio, you've got the Special Envoy, Steve Witkoff, that's in the region, as well as Jared Kushner, to try and get this deal sealed. What are your thoughts on that, and have you heard any, additional developments as a result of those negotiations?
Well, the negotiations are ongoing. It's not like there's been anything closed yet. I know that President Trump had announced about 150 hours ago that this has to be done within 2 to 3 days. 2 to 3 days passed a long time ago. The Hamas is playing games, and I think that if we see after another 2 to 3 days that there is no final agreement on their part, we're supposed to just be working out some details of the release of the hostages, not making additional demands and starting up new negotiations. The only reason why they agreed to these negotiations is because Israel has been on the offensive. And I think Israel should stay on the offensive until they finally agree.
Oh, I get it, and this obviously is a challenge because you want to you got to keep everybody happy, right? The Israelis have to protect themselves while making sure they don't get Hamas pulling a fast one on them, and also not making things more tense than they need to be with the negotiations and the United States. I want to get your reaction from a clip of White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt making an announcement today about this deal and October 7th. And, of course, I want to get some of your thoughts and feedback on what October 7th was like, for you personally. And I want to do that straight ahead. So bear with me as we take a quick pause here. Mayor David Rubin is our guest. He was the mayor of Shiloh, Israel. And he's the founder of Shiloh Israel Children's Fund and the author of the book Trump and the Jews. Of course, we're going to get to your calls and more in just a few minutes. I'd say about 20 minutes or so. We're going to get to your calls. The phone number for that, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdes.
What is President Trump's expectations for talks today and I guess this week in Egypt? And is there a new timeline that the president is giving all sides to reach an agreement?
Yes. There are technical talks happening right now in Egypt amongst Special Envoy Witkoff and Mr. Kushner, as well as their respective parties from all sides. What we saw take place on Friday, and I have not commented on that from the podium yet, is truly remarkable. You've seen all sides of this conflict agree that this war needs to end and agree to the 20-point framework that President Trump proposed. It's an incredible achievement, and the administration is working very hard to move the ball forward as quickly as we can. The president wants to see a ceasefire. He wants to see the hostages released, and the technical teams are discussing that as we speak to ensure that the environment is perfect to release those hostages. They're going over the lists of both the Israeli hostages and also the political prisoners who will be released, and those talks are underway, and the president is very much on the ball and is being apprised of this situation.
A Sunday evening deadline. Obviously, the negotiations have extended that, I imagine. What is that new deadline? Does the president have a time frame in mind to see this phase implemented?
Well, the Sunday evening deadline was to hear back from Hamas on the proposal one way or another. And of course, on Friday, Hamas put out a very clear statement in the president's view that they accept the president's framework, and that's why those technical talks are now underway. But again, we want to move very quickly on this, and the president wants to see the hostages released as soon as possible.
That's White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt setting the record straight earlier today in the White House regarding this trip to Egypt by Ambassador Witkoff and Jared Kushner on behalf of Secretary Rubio and President Trump. And I want to, again, get some continued reaction to that, as well as some reflection on October 7th and the horrific attacks that occurred from somebody that's on the ground in Israel. He was mayor of Shiloh, Israel. David Rubin, author of the book Trump and the Jews. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to be with you, Rich.
Yes, my pleasure. Thank you. And I appreciate you coming. I know that you guys are embarking on the holiday of Sukkot. So have a blessed Sukkot. And again, thanks for being here. Now, tell me about your, I guess, your recollection of what it was like. Where were you on this horrific day?
Well, actually, I was on my way to the synagogue. I was on my way for the morning worship on the holiday of Sukkot, and it was 2 days before my daughter was supposed to get married, and all of a sudden we hear sirens, and these sirens that we hear in Israel every time there is a war. And so that was the message, that we have to immediately head to a bomb shelter, and that all the soldiers have to immediately head to the front and to report for duty, for reserve duty. So it was a horrific time as the details emerged about the 1,200 hostages that had been taken by the Hamas terrorist organization, and the burning of babies, burning alive of babies, and the heads being chopped off of elderly people, the women, countless women raped. I mean, we're talking about individuals, civilians who were just trying to live their lives in their homes, and some at a music festival. I mean, it was just absolutely horrific. And as the details emerged, so Israel was truly in shock. And you mentioned the Shiloh Israel Children's Fund that I had. The trauma with children. 2 years later, we're talking about the trauma of the children and what it has caused. And I just want to encourage people who understand or can possibly understand, but do see how hard it has been for everyone in Israel, to go to our website, which is israelchildren.org, and see how they can partner with us. Find out more and see how you can partner with us.
Absolutely. And Mayor David Rubin, I want to get your, your background on the book you wrote, Trump and the Jews. What was the impetus for that? Obviously, there's a lot of books on Trump. Why did you, in particular, write this one?
Well, I had written a previous book called The Islamic Tsunami, Israel and America in the Age of Obama, some years prior. And the contrast, when Trump came into office, the contrast couldn't have been greater. Here was this man who was not a politician, who had a very, very known reputation for good and very questionable. I don't want to say for bad, but very questionable things about him and his background. And I said, I have to find out for myself. Who is this guy who's doing all these things that are so good for the America-Israel relationship, and why is it so important to him, and what can we find out about him? So I started exploring his whole background, and the more I explored his background, the more I found out not just about his background, but about Jews in America and why. And admittedly, I'm originally from America, but so I knew a lot about Jews in America, but seeing the connection between the two and why Jews have this kind of love-hate relationship with Trump, if you're talking about the left-wing Jews, but Israel and the religious Jews in America, they love Trump, and so that's what led me to write Trump and the Jews, in which I truly revealed the truth about the Trump-Israel relationship that some people really don't know about. So I thought it was important to emphasize that and to talk about the background that's connected to it.
Now, Mayor David Rubin, no question that when Trump ran in 2015, 2016, there were a lot of negative reports, as you mentioned, that there were things that were questionable about his background being reported all over the media. Once you actually started looking into it, what did you find out?
Well, one thing I found out is that most of the attacks on Trump have been from the hard left, and most of the attacks on Trump have been aggressive, violent, without regard to fact. Now, we know that Trump's family background, his marital background, he's been through a few marriages. He's definitely, had some challenges there, but eventually he found the right woman. And if you look back, Trump debated Hillary Clinton, and one thing at the end of the debate that I found very revealing was when they asked Hillary Clinton to say something good about Trump.
Yeah,
and that was a very hard thing for her to do. But she came out and she said, "I think if you want to understand something good about Trump, you have to look at his children and see how they're hardworking, how they're honest, how they don't get involved in drugs and drinking or anything like that." And I think that in general, we in Israel, being such a family-oriented society, understand that if you want to understand a person, look at the integrity of their children, and that's how you can understand their own character.
Yeah, really well put. Mayor David Rubin, author of Trump and the Jews, former mayor of Shiloh, Israel. I want to thank you again for joining us tonight. I know that you guys are on the eve of your Sukkot holiday, so again, congratulations and best wishes on the holiday. I want to thank you for being here. Folks, check out the website, israelchildren.org, israelchildren.org, or you can check out David Rubin, Rubin, Israel.com. Mayor, thank you, sir. God bless you.
Thank you.
You bet. And amigos, we continue with your thoughts, your calls, your reaction to everything that's going on. October 7th, Trump, the National Guard in Portland, Oregon, in Chicago, the courts weighing in, everything else that's going on. Plenty to discuss. There's a bunch of things I want to get to as well. So keep it locked right here. We're coming right back with your thoughts, calls, and reactions. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
Big fan. Your impact is really big. Honored to be here.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
All right, amigos, welcome back. And we're going to get to your calls momentarily about October 7th, about illegal aliens, about everything else that's going on in America at night. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. I was scrolling through my handheld cellular device, and I saw this video. Pretty funny. And I said, man, this woman is funny. She was a comic. She is a comic. She is Asian. Her name, I have it here. Jocelyn, spell the last name for me, Mr. Good. Chia, Jocelyn Chia. And she, very, very funny. I want you to hear this clip. Check this out.
Yeah, this country is so divided, right? They're saying we should separate liberals from one country, conservatives in another country. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, no, we can't do that. If America ever goes to war, I want conservatives defending us. Right? Those guys that stormed the Capitol, that's who I want fighting for this country. Have you seen their photos? They'd be on the battlefield with their horns and their fur. They'll be like, America! America! Can you imagine liberal snowflakes at war? Oh, they'd be on the battlefield being like, oh my God, this is not a safe space. Why are there so many triggers? And the general will be like, shoot him. Are you sure that is the right pronoun? Gen Z liberals will be even worse. The general will be like, attack! They'll be like, I don't chase, I attract.
That again, Jocelyn Chia. And very, very funny stuff. Always comes in handy, a little bit of political humor. And the reality is we are quite divided. We know that. That's not breaking news. But Democrats are saying that we're coming into the midterm elections with a little bit of an upswing for Republicans, and things aren't looking so good for Democrats. I'll play you some audio on that in a moment. But I want to get your reaction to everything we've been talking about tonight, pretty much anything you want. You know the rules, open phones across America, 833-4-VALDES. And let's go to Portland, Oregon. Jim in KUGN country is calling us. Go right ahead.
Oh, hi, Rich. By the way, I'm catching you on the big skip bounce out of San Francisco, KSFO. October 7th. Yeah, it comes in good and loud here. October 7th, to me, has sort of a double meaning. In addition to the atrocities of 2 years ago, there was a major naval battle in 1571 between the Turkish Navy, which up until that point had pretty well ruled the Mediterranean for 15 years, and a Christian alliance. I forget exactly all the countries. And they fought off the west coast of Greece at Lepanto. And the forces were roughly equal, slight numerical edge to the alliance forces. And they had a new type of ship, which is bigger, which turned out to be good. And I think the winds might have favored the alliance forces against the Turkish Navy. And I think the Turkish Navy lost 80 to 90% of their ships, either sunk or captured or something like that. And it was a huge major battle. And a year later, though, they're back. They're rebuilt, and they consolidated. They didn't control the whole Mediterranean, but they did control the eastern Mediterranean. And before that battle, the smart money, I think they'd have bet it on the Turks, even though they're at a slight disadvantage. And it's just, I get this eerie sense of deja vu. It's like that part of the world does not change. I mean, it's kind of like it was, 454 years ago. And it's just, that ties in, to me, it's a double anniversary. And, one kind of ancient, but one very recent. And it's just, it leaves me a little numb.
Yeah, but listen, I totally agree with you. It would be numbing for me too, and if I were to look at it in those terms. And the battle you're talking about, the Battle of 1571, is back then it was the Catholics that really put that Holy League together, and this is how things were back then. Today we fight in the name of Republican and Democrat. Back then, I think people fought in the name of the Ottoman Empire and versus Christianity, and I think people, maybe mistakenly, right, or maybe naively, think that we've gotten away from that. And I think for a long time we did. But when godliness escapes you and godlessness prevails, I think you come right back to a place like that, right? And things come full circle, or as you said, deja vu. So I don't know that we're going to embark on a new crusades, if you will. But it wouldn't surprise me at this point, being that you're seeing a lot of things happening at the same time. There's a convergence of not only political ideology, but radicalization within religion, as well as a preeminence of proselytization mainly in Europe, and that's a big deal. And I think if the West is to maintain the tradition and history that it's had throughout Western civilization, it will need to do things differently. And I don't know that it's prepared to. And mainly bringing it back to the comedian I just played, she talked about the snowflakes on the left and how they would be afraid to fight or whatnot. I think that's part of it. The other part of it is, it's cultural in my background, right? My parents both born in Puerto Rico, to have large families. My dad is one of 12. My mother's one of 2, though. And there's a bunch of kids in my family, more than 2. But I only had 2 kids. And a lot of people I know only had 2 kids. And I know people my age and a little bit younger that don't have any kids. And I see that trend going on. And I think, when you have people talk about these conspiracy theories about depopulation. We're depopulating ourselves. There's no need to depopulate us. The birth rate has been going down significantly for quite a while. So when you look at who's having children and who's truly going to populate and inhabit this world moving forward, I'd say we've got a lot of work to do along those lines. Otherwise, we're going to see the Ottoman Empire versus the Catholic Holy League all over again. God forbid. So thank you for your call on the bottle of Lepanto, and I appreciate the call from Oregon by way of KSFO. Shout out to you guys. And I'm going to take a pause right here. We're going to come right back. The rest of your calls and more. Montana, New York, California. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes. Call now, 833-4-VALDES. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDES. That's Valdes with an S.
You're educating America, and you are giving us an opportunity to speak freely. That's why I love this station, and I love your show.
America at Night with Rich Valdes.
Democrats are counting on next year's midterms to win back at least some control of Congress, but the party has some major political headwinds. NBC News national political correspondent Steve Kornacki joins me now, and he's at the big board. Steve, why should Democrats be nervous at this point?
It's a little interesting right now, Gabe, about a year out from the midterms. Here, look, Donald Trump's approval ratings are certainly nothing to write home about. And this is what Democrats are looking at in terms of a challenge to take back the House, the current balance of power. With those vacancies, if they are filled the way we expect them to be, it would be 220 seats for the Republicans. There it is, 220 for the Republicans, 215 for the Democrats. And that would mean Democrats.
So 220, 215, you're talking about 5. He brings it down to even a little further, says it's about 3. And I'm going to say, look, that's always been the case, right? We're always running neck and neck here. The problem I think Democrats face right now, in my opinion, is they're trying to win over public opinion. And, you know, that's what everybody's trying to do. I think ultimately, though, they're really losing because why? Well, it's simple. People don't like what they're doing. I can't think of anybody except for the radicals on the left and a few people that are just have bought, sip the Kool-Aid, that are in favor of illegal immigration, right? You've got the people that if I say illegal immigration, right away they shout, no one is illegal, they're undocumented. It was the United States that ruined the Northern Triangle. Ronald Reagan selling cocaine. He broke Nicaragua. He broke Honduras. He broke everything in Central and South America. So now those people have nowhere to go and you have to take them. Okay. You could say that all you want. But I think when you hit the ground and start knocking on doors, go into Baltimore and just start asking people in Baltimore, the men and women that live there, and say, hey, what do you think? Do you think we should be taking in all the illegal aliens? What do you think they're going to say? Really? What do you think they're going to say? I'm going to give you a clue. We saw what they said in this last election. Now, you can say, all right, well, Trump didn't get a majority of black men or black women. So what are you getting at, Rich? I'm getting at that the Democrats got less and less than they have in the longest time. And Trump saw a big gain in black men. Why? That's one of the issues. I got another one for you. So people don't like illegal immigration. You know what else people don't like? Crime. People don't like crime. How about that? Right now, why am I using black people as example? Because that is traditionally the Democrat base, right? They've forever, who was it? LBJ, right? Lyndon Baines Johnson, after Kennedy's assassination, that said, we are, and this is a direct quote, I believe it is. He said, we're going to have those N-words voting Democrat for a generation, right? Or a lifetime, something like that. And he said that, not me. Why? Because he was a racist. And this is the way they conduct their politics. Now, I'm going to say, Trump's never said anything even close to that. What's he done? He went and he did a rally with a bunch of black Americans, and he said, what do you have to lose? And they were like, you know what? You're right. What do we have to lose? We've been messing with these guys for the longest time, and where do we get? Nowhere, right? You kind of run like a little hamster wheel, a little circular exercise in circuitousness, if you will. So guess what? Democrats are losing ground on a lot of these key issues that were once that they owned. Nobody's saying we need illegal immigrants. Now, some people are saying, who's going to do the lettuce? Who's going to do? These are the weakest, in my opinion, they are the weakest arguments. I constantly find people, even Republicans, saying, oh, but come on, let's be real, Rich. I don't know about you. I really don't know about you. But I can tell you this. When I was 14 years old, I started cutting hair in my bathroom, like drawing designs in the sides of my friend's hair and then experimenting with these little really tight fade haircuts. Eventually went to cosmetology school, and I had my barbershop and all that. But that's how it started, as a teenager in my house, in my dad's apartment. And I can tell you that it started as something small, and then it grew into something bigger. An actual business. I had at least 100 clients a day when I had my barbershop, and before I was 17 years old. Now, why do I bring that up? I bring that up because you can build a business. Things can actually catch on. And I think things are catching on here. People, when you give them an option, when they're able to do things, they're going to change their minds. When they see that they have options and that they can do things that, you're telling them they can't, but when they go and do it and they do it, well, guess what? They're going to say, you know what? I think you're full of it. I don't want to play your stupid game anymore. I can do my own thing. And that, my friends, is what I think the Democrats are facing. People are testing them. And as they're testing them, they're saying, you know what? This isn't working out for us. So as that continues, of course you're going to have this pushback from the electorate. And I think, again, that's just one example that I'm bringing up. What are the other issues? Do people think that we need illegal immigrants? Well, a lot of people will argue that. In addition, before I was able to completely build that business, I took a job. My mom knew the manager of a Dunkin' Donuts in Hackensack, New Jersey. At the time, I lived in a whole different county. I lived in Hudson. So it was about a 45-minute bus ride, maybe an hour with traffic, from where I lived in the West New York area. Okay. I had to be 16 in order to, like, quote unquote, legally work, right? The school gives you working papers. My mom knew the manager. They hooked me up. I was 15 and I was working at Dunkin' Donuts. I worked with guys that were likely illegal aliens in the kitchen of a Dunkin' Donuts. But I was an American teenager that wanted a new pair of Jordans. So guess what? I cut hair. I worked, the title of my job, finisher. I worked as a finisher. I was the guy that once the baker, who's really a fryer, he would fry all these donuts. I'd take these very hot, fresh donuts, stick them on the jelly machine and inject the jelly inside the jelly donut, then toss it in this bin to powder it, sugar it, and, and make the donuts. And I did that, right? Those guys didn't speak English. I did. One of them was from Brazil. The other one was from Ecuador. Great guys. And my point is, me, the American teenager, I did that work. Why? Because it was available to me. I was able to do it. Right? Now, today, we have a surplus of cheap foreign labor that is competing with the American workforce. So if you're 15 years old or 14 years old or whatever it is and you want to work somewhere, you can't. Why? Because now Joe Biden has brought in enough cheap labor to keep us busy for like a millennia. So when people say, these kids don't want, I didn't want to do that job either. But what I did want to do was make the $300 that I would make between Friday and Monday morning. I worked double shifts back to back from Friday after school to Sunday midnight shift. And I would make $300 in that weekend time frame. $1,200 a month when I was 15 years old. I thought I was a millionaire. So my point is, when you eliminate a lot of this cheap foreign labor, illegal immigrant labor that's available, and it's flooding the marketplace, you create the opportunity for American kids to say, hey, look, I don't care what kind of work it is. I just want to make some money because I want to buy a new pair of Jordans. And I think we're missing that right now. And I think the Democrats are missing that right now as well. Anyway, we're going to continue our conversation. We're going to go to Frank calling us from Evergreen, Montana, straight ahead.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
All right, amigos, welcome back. And I want to continue our conversation with Frank, Evergreen, Montana, KOFI in the building. Frank, go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, Rich.
Yes, sir.
In 1981 through 1985, Oregon was under siege by a foreign communist. He was he had control of a town called Antelope, Oregon. The Rajneesh Bhagwan had about 300 Rolls Royces.
Is that a friend of yours?
No, but he had homeless people living with him, as slaves. And, of course, he had sex and drugs and everything, and he was an illegal alien. They got him out of the country. His wife tried to poison the community, and that's when enough was enough. The National Guard had to come in to prevent a civil war. So there is precedent to block this temporary restraining order by the federal judge.
This is the back in 1984 you're talking about, right?
81 through 84, yes.
Yeah.
And they were a dangerous cult. They were into murder and extortion. Family members didn't know where these kids were, and my God, they were just total, no right to call or talk with anybody. It was just they were total slaves. And anyway, he had to leave the country, and they pretty much dropped a lot of the charges against him. But it was a cult. It was been practicing communism all his life, and he really just had a playground there. And we can't forget this. So Trump has the right to bring the National Guard, regardless of that federal judge.
Yeah, well, listen, I didn't know about this, so thank you for always being our Montana-based historian on the program. Shout out to our man Bill out in Missouri. And yeah, I love it. I'm going to look into it, and we're going to learn more about this communist siege of 1981 to 1984 in Oregon. Looks like the problems are going back later than I thought. Anyway, amigos, tomorrow we've got Charlie Sheen calling to join us and tell us about his sobriety and everything else that's going on in his new Netflix documentary. Hasta la próxima. Take care. Good night. And God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdes.